let's take a closer look at why beginners often struggle with tones and, more importantly, how you can fix these mistakes quickly and naturally. When English speakers start learning Mandarin, the first major challenge they face is tone perception. In English, tone changes emotion, but it does not change the meaning of a word. But in Chinese, tone completely transforms the meaning. This difference creates what linguists call tone deafness for lexical meaning. For example, when you hear ma, 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 your brain tries to treat them like the same word said with different emotions. But in Mandarin, they are four totally different words. So before pronunciation improves, the brain first needs to build a new tone awareness system. And that's exactly what we'll develop in this video. Another reason tones feel hard is because beginners try to memorize tones visually instead of training muscle memory. Mandarin is physical. Your mouth shape, pitch movement, and breath flow create the tone. You can't just think the tone. You have to feel it. For example, the third tone isn't really a long dip for most words. It's actually a short low tone in natural speech. But learners force a huge fall and rise, which makes it sound robotic. Our goal is to shift from remembering tones to producing tones naturally. Here's the good news. You already have tone patterns in English that are surprisingly similar. When you ask a question like, "Really?" your voice rises, just like the second tone. When you're annoyed and say, "What?" with a sharp drop, that's similar to the fourth tone. When you say a flat, bored, "Okay," that's close to the first tone. And when you say, "Uh-huh," with a low dip, that's the third tone. So you're not starting from zero. You just need to attach these tone feelings to Mandarin syllables. By the end of this section, you'll understand exactly how to map English intonation to Mandarin tones, smooth out your pronunciation, and speak with confidence.
The first tone in Mandarin is high and steady. Think of it almost like holding a musical note. You start at a high pitch, and you stay there without dipping or rising. If English is your native language, imagine you're saying "oh" in a bored or flat way, but keep it on one clean level. That's the feeling. The key is stability. No movement up or down. Your vocal cords should feel relaxed but firm, almost like your voice is gliding on a straight line. A very common example in Chinese is ma. This means mother when spoken with the first tone. Try saying it with me slowly. First, stretch it a little bit so your voice stabilizes. Ma. Long, high, and even. Now say it again naturally. Ma. Good. Let's try another word. Gao, which means tall or high. Again, high and steady. Gao. Keep it smooth without changing your pitch. And one more example. Shu, meaning book. Hold it up on the same tone. Shu, steady and floating. One mistake beginners often make is starting high but dropping their pitch slightly at the end, which turns it into a falling tone. Another mistake is raising the pitch even higher at the end, which makes it sound like a question in English. To avoid this, imagine you're balancing a glass of water on your head. No sudden movements. When you say the first tone, you're balancing your voice on that same calm, steady line. Take a moment now, breathe, and try these again. Ma, gao, shu. Let the sound sit right on top of your voice. Now let's shift into the second tone. This one should feel more natural to English speakers because it resembles the rising pitch you use when asking a question like, "Really?" or "What?" The pitch starts in the middle and gently rises upward. It shouldn't shoot up quickly or sound overly dramatic. Instead, it should feel smooth, rising as if your voice is curving forward. Try saying ma, start in the middle, and glide upward like you're asking something. Ma? Good. Now try shunma, which means what? The first syllable uses the second tone. Shun. Notice how it rises, but it doesn't become high and harsh. You're just lifting your voice slightly. And here's another easy example. 词, meaning word. Start low middle, rise a bit, and stop. 词. If the rise is too sharp, it sounds unnatural. If there's no rise, then the meaning becomes unclear. A mistake many English speakers make is exaggerating the rise so much that it sounds like they're surprised or confused. Remember, Chinese tones are smaller and more controlled than English expressive intonation. The goal is precision. Think of the second tone as a gentle lift, not a dramatic swoop. Try these again, but keep them light. Ma, shun, ci. Next comes the third tone, which is probably the most misunderstood and mispronounced tone in Mandarin. Most textbooks teach that the third tone dips down and then rises sharply. That's true in theory, but in actual everyday spoken Chinese, the full dip and rise version is rarely used, unless you're emphasizing something or saying a syllable in isolation. In real speech, the third tone is usually pronounced as a low, slightly dipping tone without the rising part. A great example is ma, which means horse. When spoken slowly, you dip down and rise back up. But in natural conversation, it becomes a low, stable tone. Try saying it with me first in the full form, ma. Dip down like you're lowering your voice, then rise gently. Now try the real-life version, ma. Just low and flat, no rise. You'll hear native speakers doing this all the time. Take another example, ni hao. You've probably heard this phrase many times. Technically, the first word, ni, is a third tone, but in real conversation, it becomes low and simple. Same with hao. So instead of two big dips with rises, native speakers say them more smoothly. Ni hao. Low and calm. No dramatic movements. The biggest mistake with the third tone is going too deep with the dip. Some beginners push their voice so low that it becomes unnatural and uncomfortable. You don't need to do that. Think of it as lowering your pitch slightly, like you're preparing to say something serious or thoughtful. Try these now with a relaxed voice. Ma, ni, hao, wo. All low, gentle, and natural. Another thing to remember is that when two third-tone syllables appear together, the first one often changes into a second tone in real speech. So, ni hao ends up sounding like ni hao. This tone sandhi happens frequently, and it's one of the reasons Mandarin sounds smoother in conversation than in textbook examples. Don't worry about mastering this right away. It will become intuitive as your ear gets used to it. Now let's move on to the fourth tone, which is sharp, strong, and falling. Imagine you're giving a clear command in English, like stop or no. Your voice starts high and falls quickly to a lower pitch. This tone carries a firm, confident energy. A classic example is ma, which means to scold. Say it firmly with me. Ma. Start high and drop straight down. Another word is da, meaning big. Again, firm and falling. Da. And try sheng, meaning up or above. High and sharp at the start, falling quickly. Sheng.
The common mistake with the fourth tone is either not falling enough or falling too slowly. If you don't fall enough, the tone may sound like a first tone. And if you fall too slowly, it becomes unclear. The fourth tone should feel like a quick, decisive action. Think of it as an exclamation point in your voice. Don't push or shout, just let your pitch drop in a controlled but confident way. One way to practice this is to imagine cutting the sound with a downward stroke. Start high, then bring it down smoothly but firmly. Try saying it with a little breath support so it doesn't sound harsh. Ma, da, sheng. Good! You'll notice that the fourth tone has a very distinct character, which makes it easy to recognize in conversation once you've trained your ear.
Putting all four tones together is the real challenge, but also the real beauty of Mandarin. Each tone has its own personality. The first tone is calm and steady. The second tone is curious and rising. The third tone is thoughtful and low, and the fourth tone is strong and falling. When you learn to control these tones, your speech becomes clear, expressive, and meaningful. Even small tone differences can completely change the meaning of a word, so mastering them is essential. Take a moment to repeat this tone set with me. Ma, 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 ma. High and steady, then arising, then low, then falling. Feel how each one uses your voice differently. This single exercise, repeated every day, will dramatically improve your pronunciation. The more you practice, the more your vocal muscles adapt to these movements naturally. As you continue learning Mandarin, keep paying attention to tones in every word you hear. Listen to how native speakers glide through them effortlessly. Over time, you'll develop the same instinct. For now, focus on stability for the first tone, control for the second tone, relaxation for the third tone, and confidence for the fourth tone. And remember, you don't need to be perfect right away. Tone mastery grows with consistent practice. If you keep practicing these examples, repeating them slowly and clearly, you'll build the foundation that every advanced learner depends on. By training your tones properly from the beginning, you're giving yourself one of the biggest advantages in learning Mandarin. Stay patient, keep practicing out loud, and trust the process. You're already doing great, and with each repetition, you're getting closer and closer to sounding more like a native speaker. To understand the neutral tone, imagine your voice fading gently, without any rise or fall. It doesn't carry stress. It doesn't need emphasis. It simply follows the main tone that comes before it. A very common example is the word ma, the question particle. It's never pronounced as a full tone. It stays light and short, like a soft ma at the end of a sentence. Another example is de, used to show possession, and le, used to mark completion. These neutral tone words are everywhere in Mandarin, and learning to say them softly will make you sound immediately more native-like. Let's try them one by one. When you say ma in a question like 你好吗, make the ma gentle and quick. Don't give it weight. Now try de, as in 我的. Again, the de is quiet, almost like a shadow of a syllable. And now le, as in 我吃了. It's a tiny sound, almost clipped. Practicing this lightness is important because if you give these words a full tone, your sentences will sound unnatural or even confusing. The key is to relax your voice and release the sound softly, almost like an exhale. Now, let's move into tone pairs, which are essential for speaking Mandarin smoothly. Tones rarely appear alone in real conversation. Most words and phrases combine two tones, and learning how they interact will help your pronunciation become automatic. Tone pairs also train your ear to switch tones quickly, which is a big step towards sounding confident. Let's start with the first and fourth tone together. The first tone is high and steady, and the fourth tone drops sharply. A good example is 杯子, meaning cup. The first syllable stays high and the second falls quickly. Try saying it slowly, feeling the contrast. 杯子. Another example is 工作, meaning work. The first tone stays level, then the fourth tone falls firmly. Practicing this pair helps you stabilize your high pitches before shifting into a strong downward tone. Next is the second tone paired with the third tone. The second tone rises, while the third tone usually stays low. A very common example is 蝴蝶, meaning butterfly. The first syllable rises, and the next dips low. Another example is liu xia, meaning to leave behind. The rising motion into the low tone helps you understand how Mandarin flows in natural speech. Now let's try the very famous third tone plus third tone pair. When two third tones are next to each other, the first one usually changes into a second tone in real spoken Chinese. For example, ni hao sounds like ni hao. This makes the phrase easier to say and smoother to pronounce. Another example is hen hao, meaning very good. Again, the first tone becomes a rising sound in natural conversation. Learning this pattern will help you speak more like a native without even thinking about it. Finally, the fourth tone plus fourth tone pair has a strong, powerful feel. Both syllables fall sharply. For example, xie xie, meaning thank you, has two falling tones, though the second one is lighter. Another example is tai tai, meaning wife. This pair teaches you how to control strong downward tones without sounding harsh.
By practicing tone pairs regularly, you train your voice to shift naturally between tones, which is the real secret to fluent Mandarin pronunciation. It makes your speech smoother, clearer, and much more understandable. The more you repeat these combinations, the more automatic your tone transitions will become. A lot of learners make the same tone mistakes without even realizing it, and fixing these habits early will save you months of frustration. One of the biggest mistakes is pronouncing tones too slowly. Many beginners drag each tone out as if they're trying to show the full pitch shape. But Mandarin is not slow and stretched. The tones are quick and natural. When you exaggerate them too much, your speech becomes heavy and unnatural. Tones should feel rhythmic, not dragged. Think of them as quick pitch movements, not long musical notes. If you hear yourself stretching tones, gently shorten your pronunciation. Let the tone move, then move on. Another very common mistake is mixing up volume with pitch. Some learners make the first tone louder because they confuse high pitch with high volume. Others push the fourth tone too forcefully, thinking they need to shout to make it sharp and falling. Mandarin tones are about pitch direction, not loudness. You don't need to raise your voice. In fact, the best tone practice happens when you speak softly. When the volume is low, your ear focuses more on pitch and you naturally control tones better. Try practicing at half volume and notice how your tones become smoother. A third mistake is forgetting tones entirely when speaking longer sentences. Many beginners can pronounce tones correctly in single words, but once the sentence gets longer, they slip back into English rhythm. This happens because the brain focuses on grammar and meaning, and the tones get lost. The solution is very simple. Practice short phrases, not individual words. When you train tones inside sentences, your brain learns how to hold tone awareness while speaking. It becomes automatic over time. Repeat small phrases daily until your tone flow becomes natural. Many learners also expect perfection too quickly, and this creates unnecessary pressure. Mandarin tones are a new skill, and new skills need time. Expecting perfect tones immediately is like expecting perfect guitar chords on your first day. The goal is progress, not perfection. Your tones don't have to be perfect to be understood. They just need to be clear and consistent. Every native speaker will understand a learner who uses tones confidently, even if they're not flawless. Instead of chasing perfection, focus on building the habit. Daily practice will reshape your muscle memory. Now, let's do some final speaking practice together. I'll guide you through a few simple sentences that combine multiple tones. Repeat after me, first slowly, then naturally. Start with ni hao ma. Say the ni with a rising sound, keep hao low, and finish with a light ma.
Now repeat it again with a smoother flow. Imagine you're greeting someone casually. Next, try 我很好. The first word dips slightly, the second rises into a low tone, and the last word keeps that gentle third tone feel. Repeat it a few times until your voice moves between tones without breaking. Let's try a phrase with a falling tone at the end. 谢谢你. The first word falls sharply but politely, and the ni rises gently. Now say it again a bit more relaxed, as if you're thanking a friend. Now try this one. 我要这个. Feel the fourth tone drop in 要, the neutral tone in 这, and the gentle ending of 个. Practice these small sentences until you can hear the rhythm even without thinking. This rhythm is what will make your Mandarin sound smooth and confident. As we come to the end of this lesson, I want you to remember one important idea. Tone mastery doesn't come from forcing perfection. It comes from small, consistent practice. Just 5 minutes a day is enough to see real improvement. Tones start as something you think about, but with regular repetition, they slowly become something you feel. And once you feel them, speaking Mandarin becomes far easier and far more enjoyable. You've already made real progress today, and every minute you spend listening and repeating builds your confidence. Keep practicing the tone pairs, keep using the short sentences, and don't pressure yourself. You're learning a whole new sound system, and you're doing great. If you enjoyed this lesson, make sure to subscribe for more beginner-friendly Mandarin videos. And tell me in the comments what you want to learn next: vocabulary, grammar, reading, listening, or conversation practice. I'm here to guide you step by step. Great job today. Keep going, keep practicing, and you'll be amazed at how natural Mandarin will start to feel.